welcome to HITC Sport. Right, we all love a game of five-a-side, right? I know I do. Here's footage of me roasting an old man to shreds. Yeah, well done. You managed to dribble past a guy born in 1933. But all I'm going to do today is take a look at the league table if every Premier League club was only allowed to choose a five-a-side team made up of players who represented them in the last 5 years since 2016 and with just one impact sub on the bench. Now, lads, this isn't simplistic nonsense where you just pick the 5 best players since 2016. No, it's none of that. For this, you're going to have to use your brain, which automatically rules me out. With this, you have to find the 5 best players suited to five-a-side football. So naturally, you're gonna see a lot of Brazilians and Spanish in here. Right, let's go. 20th West Brom. Yeah, under five-a-side rules, West Brom wouldn't have a prayer. Listen, yes, Sam Johnstone is a great reactionary shot stopper, and Johnny Evans would be a good ball-playing centre half. But who else? Matthew Pereira and Grady Diankin in midfield? It's not exactly gonna get the pulses racing. And up front, I think Daniel Sturridge has the natural ability to be a goal-scoring monster in five-a-side. Sure, towards the end, he wasn't able to get about the pitch and was another West Brom flop, but you can be damn sure he was probably still one of the most skillful players in training. And on the bench, yes, another flop, but I think Oliver Burke would be a decent impact sub at five-a-side. But other than that, relegation. 19th, Burnley. Is it any surprise Burnley aren't staying up in a five-a-side league? Sean Dyche hasn't been recruiting players for tiki-taka over the last 6 years. No, it's been for blood and thunder tackles and long ball football. The complete opposite of five-a-side. Here, sure, Nick Pope would be a good goalie, and James Tarkowski would do well in defence. And in midfield, I think Stephen Defoe and Dwight McNeil would be a decent partnership, both players who can put their foot on the ball. And up front, Jay Rodriguez has always had a surprisingly high level standard of technique. Chuck in a skillful Robbie Brady to sit on the bench, it's still not great, is it? 18th, Fulham. In comparison to the rest of this division, this is not a good team, but it's not terrible. Alfonso Areola in nets is a good experienced pick, and in defence, let's say Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I know he's a midfielder by trade, but still, stick him on a five-a-side pitch and just tell him to read the game and knock about passes. I think he'd be an excellent centre half. In midfield, yes, John Terry was a massive flop, but you don't get tipped to replace Xavi at Barcelona if you're not good at five-a-side. Beside him, I'm gonna go for the maverick ability of Ryan Babel. Don't let his mediocre CV fool you. He actually has bags of ability and talent. He just has the work ethic of a mashed potato. And then up front, I'm going for the jinky Adamola Lookman to cause problems, with Ryan Sessegnon a good impact sub off the bench. It's not a bad team, but probably still wouldn't stay up. 17th, Brighton. Lads, Graham Potter would probably love a change to five-a-side. Firstly, you've got Robert Sanchez in goal, and then in defence, you're probably expecting Lewis Dunk, right? No, not a chance. Ben White is the modern day ball-playing centre half. Then a midfield partnership with Adam Lallana, who'd dribble past players for fun, and Leandro Trossard. Again, another skillful player who tied the opposition in knots. Then up front, Danny Welbeck. Yes, I know he's never been a good goal scorer, but he still has a decent first touch and adequate technique for five-a-side. And then on the bench, let's say Alireza Jahanbash. On his day, this man has mouth-watering football technique. 16th, Leeds. This is a good Leeds team. Ilan Meslier in nets, and then in defence, Diego Llorente. Don't bother reminding me he started slow at Ellen Road. He's a Spanish centre half who spent 15 years at Real Madrid. And five-a-side, he'd be one of the most naturally gifted defenders in the league. The energetic Calvin Phillips holding down the fort in midfield, with Patrick Bamford sticking him way up front, and then the final pick in the team. I know this is going to sound weird, but I get aroused by my couch. And I'm also going to pick Ian Poveda for this team. He's a 20-year-old English kid who hasn't really had a chance this season, but I think he would excel in five-a-side. Let's not forget he spent 2 years in the Arsenal Academy, 2 at Barcelona, and another 4 at Man City. All 3 clubs who follow the same identity with a possession-based ball-playing philosophy. For some reason, I think with his balance, his trickery, and eye for goal, he would absolutely run this league. And then on the bench, Brazilian Samba boy Rafinha would be a good impact sub. 15th, Sheffield United. Yes, Chris Wilder would actually stay up under this format. In the league, I mean, I'm not accusing him of having marital problems with his wife. I think five-a-side would suit his game. You'd have Dean Henderson back in goal because Aaron Ramsdale's confidence has clearly been chewed to shreds. And yes, when I tell you who's in defence, you're probably all gonna ring up the local loony bin, but it's Jack Rodwell. Listen, he doesn't have the legs for 11-a-side, and yes, this is the first time I've mentioned his name without adding a cruel punchline at the end of the sentence, but you tell me this guy wouldn't be a defensive giant in five-a-side. Yes, I know he's a walking joke who can't get a sniff, but still, five-a-side is a different sport, so without the need to run, I think he'd be a top-class centre-back under this rule. In midfield, you'd have the technically proficient Sander Berg taking over possession, then the movement and guile of David Brooks creating chances for Ryan Brewster to put away up front. Yes, I know he's looked hideously bang average for the Blaze this season, but this guy was another underage goal machine, and after spending a combined 12 years in the books of Chelsea and Liverpool, it's safe to say he knows where the back of the net is. And chuck another instinctive striker like Billy Sharp on the bench and suddenly This is a damn good team. 14th Newcastle. You've got Martin Dubravka in nets, a ball playing Fabian Schär in defence. No, he's not the greatest centre half in the world, but hey, he'd probably be spanking in 12 goals a season for centre back on a 5-a-side pitch. Then Mikel Merino in midfield, another Spanish midfielder who could probably pick a 10-yard pass in his sleep. Then the trickery of Alan Saint-Maximin going forward, who could probably dribble the length of the pitch with his eyes closed. And then up front, I would say Perez. I know he's not a purebred goal scorer like Callum Wilson, but he probably has a better first touch and technique for 5-a-side football. And let's not forget, he's Spanish. And on the bench I'll go for Miguel Almiron, an impact sub who'll be a nightmare for tired defences. 13th Aston Villa. Yes, Emiliano Martinez walks into nets, and in defence, not Mings, 2017 version of John Terry. Yes, he was inching towards retirement, but still, he would still have the brain to be a world-class centre half at this level. In midfield, you got the energy of John McGinn, the skill of Jack Grealish. Yes, I know I would gladly push him down the stairs, but I have to admit, the guy would terrify every defender on the pitch. Up front you got the clinical Ollie Watkins, and then on the bench, Louis Barry. I know, it's a weird one, but he's an unknown secret weapon with a point to prove. Spent a year in Barcelona's academy, so I'm pretty sure he knows how to pass a football. Factor in the fact he showed against Liverpool that he's not overawed by the big occasion, and is actually a pretty clinical goal scorer. Then yeah, why not? Barry on the bench. 12th Everton. You would think with all the money spent, Everton would be able to field a better 5-a-side team than this. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad. You got Jordan Pickford starting attacks in goal. You'd have Michael Keane in defence, Gylfi Sigurdsson popping 5-yard passes about. The energy of Wayne Rooney smashing goals in from midfield, combined with the movement and skill of Richarlison up front. And then the quick feet and trickery of Alex Iwobi come off the bench. Yes, I'm going to say it. I think Iwobi is more suited to 5-a-side than Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yes, I realise that Nigerian is the end product of a broken sink, but lads, he's the nephew of JJ Okocha. Don't you dare tell me he wouldn't look good on a 5-a-side pitch. 11th Wolves. I know I'm sticking Wolves halfway down the table, but still, such was their array of skillful options. This was one of the hardest teams to pick. I'm going for Rui Patricio in goal, because obviously I don't have a brain made of fudge. My one defender, Connor Cody obviously, but this is where things get tricky. For a start, there's no Ruben Neves, not even on the bench, or João Moutinho. Yeah. Yes, they're both great midfielders, but neither has the athleticism, guile, or skill as Daniel Podence, who would draw so many free kicks at this level. Next to we've got Diego Jota, and then Raul Jimenez up front, with a powerful workhorse beast like Adam Traore waiting in the wings on the bench. I know, not picking Neves or Moutinho for Wolves, it feels about as natural as licking dead skin off your granny's feet, but let me know if I'm wrong. 10th Southampton. Yeah, this is a surprising team here. Yes, Alex McCarthy in nets is obvious, and obviously Virgil van Dijk walks into defence. Then in midfield, do not underestimate just how effective 22-year-old Malian winger Moussa Djenepo would be in 5-a-side. He's got a low centre of gravity, has skills and tricks for days, and yeah, I know he's only scored 3 times in 30 games on a big boy pitch, but in this format he'd be scoring 30 goals a season. Obviously Sadio Mane will continue to be a world-class threat next to him, with the clinical finisher Danny Ings up front. And now for the bench. Yes, Sofiane Boufal was an inconsistent waste of time. A £16 million flop, but I don't care. He's going on the bench because a Moroccan winger with his ridiculous levels of skill and elusive first touch and maverick dribbling ability, he'd be one of the most effective impact subs in the league. 9th Crystal Palace. Yeah, Crystal Palace scrape into the top half with surprisingly one of the most exciting teams in the league. Yeah, you got Vicente Guaita in goal, a man with a perfect shot-stopping reflex for 5-a-side. Then in defence, you have the defensive brick powerhouse that is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You don't usually see too many slide tackles in 5-a-side, but with him in the team, I'd be crunching into you every 30 seconds. Honestly, facing Wan-Bissaka in a one-on-one, he'd be one of the most intimidating defenders in the league. Then further up the pitch, the quick feet of Ebereki Eze and Wilfred Zaha. Sure, in the Premier League, most teams can cope by doubling up on them on an 11-a-side pitch, but shrink the margins, and the only way to stop them is to foul them. Oh yeah, and being supplied by Yohan Cabaye, the linchpin playmaker in midfield. Then chuck the skillful Andros Townsend on the bench, and yeah, it's a damn good team. 8th Tottenham. Yeah, it seems laughable to put Tottenham in 8th, but lads, just wait and see the standard of the teams above them. Right, so we've got Hugo Lloris in goal. I think Jan Vertonghen is the most equipped defender for 5-a-side. Then you've got the power of Tanguy Ndombele in midfield, with Son Heung-min and Harry Kane continuing their telepathic partnership up front. And then on the bench, chuck in Eric Lamela. Lads, this guy was scoring bonus on 11-a-side pitches. Think what he could do at 5-a-side. Marking him at tight quarters, he'd embarrass you. 7th Leicester. Yeah, this is a ridiculous team. Kasper Schmeichel in nets is great. And then Wesley Fofana, not Harry Maguire as a centre half. A midfield duo of James Maddison and Riyad Mahrez. Oh, good luck trying to stop them, especially Mahrez. You are not getting the ball off him at 5-a-side. Then the clinical Jamie Vardy sticking away the chances up front. And now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably expecting to see Yuri Tielemans on the bench, right? No, I'm going with Harvey Barnes, and you probably think I'm mental. But I think his close control, his pace, his nimble skillful footwork. Absolutely eat five-a-side for breakfast. 6th, West Ham. Hands down the biggest surprise in the list. You have collected some absolute ballers who would be perfect for five-a-side football. Yes, Lucas Fabianski in nets, then Declan Rice in defence. Then in midfield, both Dimitri Payet and Philippe Anderson. I'm sorry, that is world-class midfield pairing for five-a-side. Payet on form is a midfield genius on a full-size pitch. Never mind five-a-side and Anderson. He already failed under David Moyes, but again, he's a Brazilian Samba footballer, and under these rules, he'd be one of the best players in the league. Then Marko Arnautovic, yes, he's a massive wreckhead with a personality that probably belongs on Geordie Shore. But again, based on ability, one of the most skillful footballers to ever grace the West Ham pitch. And then on the bench, Jack Wilshere. On a five-a-side pitch, he would be immense. Should I remind you that team goal he scored for Arsenal against Norwich? 5th, Man United. Yeah, I know I'm only sticking them 5th in the league, but that doesn't mean this isn't an utterly brilliant team. Sure, you've got David De Gea in nets, then Harry Maguire is the last line of defence. Yes, I realise he's often as mobile as an overflowing toilet, but he is the best ball-playing centre half they've had since Rio Ferdinand. In midfield, I'm gonna go for Bruno Fernandes. Although Juan Mata is desperately unlucky to miss out. Anyway, the last two picks, Paul Pogba and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Two players who again had an almost telepathic partnership in 2017. And then you'd have Anthony Martial patrolling the bench. I know what you're thinking.
Where's Marcus Rashford?
Probably down the local orphanage handing out chicken BLTs. 4th, Liverpool. Arguably the hardest team to pick in the list. Well, except in goal. I mean, if you don't pick Alisson Becker in nets, then clearly you weren't hugged as a child. You're gonna have the ball playing Virgil van Dijk in defence. And then in midfield, this is probably where you're all gonna scream until you're blue in the face. Right, I'm choosing a midfield two of Thiago Alcantara and Trent Alexander-Arnold. You know, the right back.
Oh, how can you leave out Jordan Henderson? He's the modern day Stevie G.
Quite easily. Yeah, he's a world-class leader on the pitch. Compare his footballing ability, his ability to pick a pass to either Thiago or Trent, and he'd look like a hungover Glenn Whelan by comparison. Up front, the trickery of Mo Salah gets in here, and then on the bench, no Sadio Mane, no. Philippe Coutinho. 3rd, Chelsea. Listen, you've got Edouard Mendy starting attacks in goal, then a ball-playing defensive genius like Thiago Silva in defence, then Eden Hazard absolutely ruining the opposition, with Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa striking up that partnership they had together under Jose Mourinho. And then on the bench, chuck in Hakim Ziyech, a man dripping with pure ability and skill. Chuck him on the bench and this team would be an absolute monster. 2nd, Man City. Ozzy, have a ball-playing genius like Ederson in goal. I felt he'd probably be able to compete as an outfield player, and he wouldn't misplace a pass all match. John Stones is arguably the best suited defender in the country to five-a-side football. Chuck in a midfield duo of David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, they would literally be untouchable. And now you're probably expecting Sergio Aguero up front, right? No, yes, he is another goal machine, but five-a-side is about skill, and Leroy Sané is one of the most skillful attackers on the planet. If you're a defender facing his stepovers and tricks in five-a-side, you're probably gonna need therapy in the morning. And again, on the bench, Raheem Sterling is another skillful goal machine who'd be a world-class impact sub. This team is frightening. First, Arsenal. Yeah, finally, Arsenal win the league. But look at this team. A ball-playing goalie like Bernd Leno in nets. David Luiz. Yes, David Luiz at the back. Yeah, I know he has the concentration of a goldfish. And putting him on a full-size football pitch, it's like letting a 4-year-old mow the lawn. You're probably going to end up with fingers in your rose bush. He is a ball-playing Brazilian who probably shot out of his mother's womb doing keepy-ups with his own umbilical cord. In the middle, you've got both Mesut Ozil and Sandy Cazorla. Their vision and skill will be unstoppable. And up front, you've got an absolute live-wire menace like Alexis Sanchez with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on the bench. This would be unbelievable. Anyway, that's the end of it. Let me know, what do you think? Show me your five-a-side team with a sub in the comment section below. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.